Good afternoon, Tom Johnson, along with our Mayor Alex Rounaghi, with another edition of Fair Game Laguna. Mayor, good afternoon. How you doing?
How's it going, Tom?
Good. You've been a busy guy. We'll get to a couple of things that you've been up to, but first of all, I think the biggest news probably that happened in the community for residents and things like that is the Planning Commission voting 5-0 unanimously to support the promenade development. And, I think that's big news because that means we move ahead. Were you surprised or anticipating that vote?
Well, I mean, I wasn't surprised overall because, the vast majority of the people who I talk to every day are in support of the promenade, and I think it really is in line with what we're trying to do for our downtown to create a pedestrian, community-oriented experience for residents, to enjoy. And so I'm very excited about the promenade. Last night at the city council meeting, we also took action on declaring Forest a slow street, which allows us to close it and leverage a statutory exemption under CEQA. And basically, the council's decision was let's hold off until the slow streets ordinance goes into effect, which will be in 30 days. So we have that moving forward. And then there was a coastal development permit that was filed, or that was considered today by the community development director. So there's a lot of moving parts here. There's potentially appeals, but what I'm happy about is that this is moving forward, and I'm looking forward to getting to I think for this to continue moving forward. Of course, if it's appealed, I haven't looked at the final design, and I wouldn't weigh in if in case it was appealed, and I'd have to make a determination on that on the design review criteria. But overall, I'm excited about the promenade and excited about the next steps. California has a lot of processes, so it's a lot of it's very complicated to do anything in this state. So
I
so
think that's
we're
one of the problems really with politics. And, you know,
100%.
I was watching some of the people with in some of the fire zones the other day, and they were talking
Yep,
about rebuilding and things and all the steps it's taking and things like that.
it's
So it
ridiculous.
is a big thing to move these kind of things through.
Well, and I think that actually it's become, I think everyone at all levels, I saw the governor was talking about this. We've sort of come to the conclusion that it's a false choice to say that because there's a lot of regulations that are very important that we have to protect, but there's a lot of regulations that just create a lot of process and bureaucracy and without actually achieving a goal. And I think that's what the state of California is dealing with right now at a high level is it's just too hard to do anything in the state, whether it's, fuel modification or defensible space or building, and there's so many rules that are not all of them are necessary. And so that's what the promenade is we're kind of navigating these complex rules. And it's interesting because when it's hard for the city of Laguna Beach to do that, imagine how it is for the average homeowner to do that,
Right.
right? And
So the promenade brings up a number of different ways that somebody that wanted to appeal it seems like they could go. I mean, you could simply not like the project. You
yep.
could not, you could be a business that, wants parking in front of your building. You could be, they're talking about removing the gutters. It's in a flood zone. They're talking about changing some of the trees, removing some of the trees, changing some of the trees, all things that seem like they could be appealed by different things. If you see it, if you were, and I know it's just like looking in a crystal ball, where do you think the appeals will come from if they do come? All the above?
I have no, I have no idea. I think it could be all. You don't necessarily need a reason to make an appeal. You have a right to appeal. You can appeal a coastal development permit. You can appeal under the California Environmental Quality Act. You can appeal under the design review criteria. So there's a lot of different avenues that you have to appeal things.
So one of the comments by one of the planning commissioners was, and I can't remember what somebody, one of them was against the project initially and then came back in favor of it and made the comment that one of the reasons he had kind of changed is because the downtown was in, I can't remember if he said disrepair or breaking down
Mm.
or something like that. Do you feel that too, and that this is the kind of thing that can revitalize that?
Totally. I think our whole town is in disrepair. It needs to really, we need to up our game. And a lot of it has to do with just all these unnecessary rules that we have that make it impossible for businesses to open. I was talking to someone who owns a restaurant in Newport Beach, and it's a great restaurant that people would love in Laguna Beach. And he says, I don't want to deal with Laguna Beach, and I don't want to deal with the process. And so what we put ourselves in a position of is we're protecting ourselves from things that we want, which is just crazy. And I think we have to up our game at the city in terms of how we're, our landscaping, our sidewalks. We really have to, we want it, we're a world-class town. And we want that to be how we're broadcasting ourselves, in terms for our residents and our visitors alike. But overall, we need to, double down in investing in our community and making it easier to do business in our community because when we make it impossible, very hard for people to do business, and suddenly that's when you have vacancies, and that's not where we want to be.
It's interesting you should say that. I grew up in a town in Northern California called Pleasanton. 6 miles away, we had a bigger town called Livermore. And Livermore put in all these restraints for years about no growth, no nothing downtown and everything, where Pleasanton flourished and had all this development and things like that. And they surpassed the city, they surpassed Livermore. And Livermore eventually got to a bankrupt city that really struggled. So, the last thing you want to do in a beautiful and wonderful town like Laguna is get it so far down that the chance for recovery takes is painful. So I think you're taking the right steps. Couple of things. Let's switch gears here.
Okay.
First of all, there's a visitor stewardship town hall next week. Talk a little bit about that. When is it? Where is it? And what do you hope to accomplish with that?
So it's next Thursday, April 17th from 5:30 to 7 in the city council chambers. The meeting will also be recorded and we encourage people to attend. Part of the, last summer we had a lot of people who came to our beaches and residents overwhelmingly, were concerned about that. And so the question is, how do we mitigate the impacts of visitors? Because, we're not, there's nothing we can do to stop visitors from coming here. But what we can do is ensure that we have the right resources in place to mitigate the impacts. What we're doing with Visit Laguna is looking at how we can move towards a stewardship role. Because ultimately, like from an incentive structure, Visit Laguna does not care about day trippers. What they care about is how do you get people, especially during the off-season times, how do you get people into hotel rooms? And that's something that all of us as residents should want because when people stay in hotel rooms, that's how we fund our infrastructure. And I mean, the Montage has brought in more than $70 million in TOT, over that's literally like our capital improvement program right there since it's opened. And so we want people to stay at our hotels because that's how we bring in money that we can invest in infrastructure for the residents. And so how can we, but and at the same time, Visit Laguna doesn't want it to be that, when we're overrun with from, day trippers who are that's not necessarily a good thing for the visitors who want to go to hotels. So our incentives are aligned, and we want to figure out as we move forward, as we go to a 10-year reauthorization of the tourism of the district for Visit Laguna. We're incorporating stewardship into its model, and then there will be governance questions too about the board and if there's ways that we can incorporate, more resident input, and really create the right alignment between what the community wants, what the hotels want, and what the city council wants, which I think are all on the same page.
Yeah, good points. Speaking of, you know, people getting in and out of town and things like that, it kind of ties us into not that we want to do this for tourism or anything like that, but brings up the point of Laguna Canyon Road
Mm.
more so as potential escape should there be a disaster in Laguna Beach. I mean, I think that's when you and I have talked about this for the last number of months and things like that. That's probably one of your biggest concerns. But,
Yep.
it's also, for people that live in town, just the ingress and egress of getting in and out of out of town. Laguna Canyon Road's an important part of that. You organized or helped put together a tour last week. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, it really wasn't me. I'm not on the ad hoc committee anymore.
Okay.
Hallie took my spot there, but I filled in for Bob, and I was a part of the first part of the discussions with members of the California Transportation Commission and Caltrans, and city staff and Councilmember Jones gave them a tour of the canyon, and we just talked about the importance of the project, the importance from a public safety standpoint in terms of our evacuation times, and explaining the risks that we have from wildfires, and so it was a very productive, trip, and I'm glad that they were able to take the time to be here. And as we look forward at grant opportunities and how we can fully fund this really critical project, it's important for us to be collaborating with the Transportation Commission and with Caltrans.
You felt like they got it?
Oh, totally. I think they got it. It's again, it just goes back to what I was saying about California, where there's so many different layers of bureaucracy and so many different, funding sources, but at the same time, there's not a lot of money. So it's just there's a lot of it's difficult to make a project like this happen. But I think that we're positioning ourselves to where we can hopefully get, bring funding down from the state level and leverage some of these infrastructure dollars and move forward.
Okay. Another important part of sometimes money coming in for projects like that and whatever is at the county level.
Hmm.
And maybe not necessarily on this one, but it could be. Big news out of the county level. Um, State Assembly woman Diane Dixon has filed to run for um, the seat that is presently held by Katrina Foley, 5th District Orange County Supervisor, which would really be a big race. Um, I think Katrina is certainly well respected, and you and I have talked about this before. She gives the appearance, and there's no reason to doubt her that she works harder than anybody else does. Every time you look around, Katrina's somewhere at
Yep.
something. I think Diane Dixon, in my years of watching Sacramento has done with that seat that's primarily been represented by, the Newport Beach or Costa Mesa area. She's probably done more in Sacramento during that time than anybody else has. And I'm not saying
Hmm.
it's been huge, but she's done stuff, and at least proposed stuff and gotten things on the table. So evidently, my take is that the Orange County GOP did a poll, and I believe they put a couple of people into the mix, and Diane Dixon showed as a person that could potentially beat Katrina Foley, which is what they're interested in. What is your thought on that kind of a race?
Yeah, so I want to be careful because I don't want to get into politics because we're, I'm in my city capacity, right? But what I'll just say is that, I've worked with Supervisor Foley closely prior to being on city council. I was her senior policy advisor, and I've never met an elected official who works harder than she does or who's more willing to go above and beyond in navigating the bureaucracy on behalf of the residents. Whether that was we worked on sober living homes together in Newport Beach to deal with because the city wasn't we worked together with the city to figure out how we can mitigate them. The dangerous impact of them working on issues like public safety and fully funding law enforcement and clearing the backlog of sexual assault cases. Other issues in terms of like sustainability, which are critical for this district. And so it was funny this weekend. I was at an event with Katrina on Friday, and then also on Saturday was the Susie Q Gala. Sunday was the PMMC Gala. She was at all three of those events, and so she's everywhere, and she works
Proving my
very hard
point.
and is always willing to, work hard on behalf of Laguna Beach and, go above and beyond to help us navigate, whether it's at the county level or even the state level. So, at the city of Laguna Beach, we are going to continue working with her on the important initiatives. And, Diane Dixon's is also is a friend, and she's been helpful in attempting to help Laguna Beach on issues as well. So, they're both good people, but and we'll see how the race plays out. I'm not going to get into politics here, but I can't say enough good things about Supervisor Foley and the leadership that she's brought to the county, which I think has desperately needed strong leadership for a long time.
Well said. And I think it's a race to put your seatbelts on because it's going to be it could be a big one. So anyway, always appreciate you taking the time to not only join me, but at times, I ask you stuff and you got to kind of put your neck out there a little, and I appreciate that. And I wish you a great rest of the week, and we'll talk to you same time next week or see you then.
Sounds great, Tom. Thank you.
Thank you.